Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom. Oh, I like that. I feel like I need some 2023 moves. We need to talk about new moves. We have what is it that we have? The shoulder rolls. What is it
We have
called?
the Women Connecting Wisdom shoulder roll,
There we go.
right?
How does it
And
go?
then we took the class. Remember when
I remember
we had the
at the
breakout
conference.
session with Satimara, yeah, and
Yes.
we had those moves that
Mm-hmm.
she taught us. That
Yep. The knowledge and wisdom and unity.
right?
That was
We
good.
got to
Yeah.
get some of that. We may have to have her come back for a refresher for
Yeah.
2023, so
I
we
mean,
know what we're doing move wise.
I think we do it as one of the breakout sessions in one of the book signings we've been talking about.
Oh heck yes,
Maybe a
I
little
would
bit
love
of
that.
movement. Yeah.
Happy New Year, my friend.
Happy
Welcome
New Year,
back.
beautiful. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm so excited to be here. Episode 97. I'm trying not to rush to our centennial episode and be here present, but I'm excited about what we have going on for the rest of the season.
Should we do our official check-in and then we'll do a
Yeah,
little more meet and greet and check
of
in
course.
with each other because we haven't
Yeah,
seen each other in 2 whole weeks. How the heck?
I know. And we usually talk a lot, right? Absolutely. Hi, ladies. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial entrepreneur and author, the founder of Shalo Glow, an all natural handmade personal products company that helps you glow from head to toe. I am a champion for your self care, business care, and intentional wellness.
Hi, y'all. I'm Christine Gotro, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, published Amazon bestselling author, and
Whoop,
dancing
whoop.
social worker who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Yes, together we are a podcast rooted in the eight dimensions of wellness and the co founders of the Women Connected in Wisdom community.
And we like to get together every week for intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness. And we love to bring in expert guests to teach us because we're still learning as we
Yeah.
are on this journey.
Yeah.
So,
And that's the reality of the situation, right? You're always a student, you're always a teacher. And I think that when I'll speak for myself, when I got more comfortable with that, it helped me with my relationship with learning. It helped me with my relationship with mistakes. And instead of beating myself up because I want to be that honor student all the time, especially going into our businesses this year, my goal is to be a little more comfortable being a C student and figuring it out. I'm still trying to be at least a B or an A, right? But not being perfect is what I'm working on this year and just doing it.
right.
Yeah.
Speaking of the new year, usually, and I haven't made it this year because I've had some family caregiving situations that I've been going through, but
Right.
usually I have a word for the year or I have
Mhm.
a plan.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to go
Okay.
live with that this show, but are you? Like,
I
have
got
you
you.
been?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So last year, the word of the year was victory. And it was definitely a victorious year, right? We got Amazon bestseller in three categories. We got ready for the community. We did the 4-day international conference after publishing our book. So many wins. The list goes on. All right. This year, the word of the year is consistency. As I go into working for the
Mm,
businesses, now it's about showing up, keeping that schedule and the flow of everything sustainable, like we talk about, and
hmm
having fun and enjoying the ride.
I
Yeah.
love that. What's bubbling up for me as we talk, and don't hold me to it because I may not stick to it, but I think either delight or
Okay.
beauty may
Mm,
be my word this year. Um, just because I know that I'm in holding grief and gratitude at the same time, I'm going to need to have those at the forefront.
yeah.
So,
And we talk every Monday too in our personal group, our manifestation
mhm,
Mondays. And one thing that really has stuck with me since you said it this week was joy. Looking for the
mhm,
joy. And what I know we talk about on the podcast is what helps you in difficult times is looking at the beauty, right? Looking at nature,
mhm,
looking at the flowers,
mhm.
looking at the animals. So I like beauty for you. It's not my role to pick your word,
I
but
know, but I'm
I know
playing
that's
with
what
it.
you like. Yeah, I like
I
those.
also I'm curious for our listeners, like if you when you hear this episode or if you're here on live, give us a comment. But do you have your word of the year? Do you immediately get it, or do you like to play with it? Like, I like to consider 3 or 4 and kind of sit with
Yeah.
them and say them and talk to them and see what bubbles up for me,
Mm,
and then I put it on sticky notes where I see it on my bathroom mirror and on my computer and things like
yeah.
that. Because
I
if I don't
appreciate
do
that.
that, otherwise I look up and I'm like, "What was my word of the year?"
Right. It's October. What was I focused on, right? I think another word this year is freedom too. Freedom.
Mm,
Yes, today we're talking about financial wellness, and we'll go into the definition soon before we bring our guest up. But when I think about financial freedom, that's time freedom and money freedom, right? So,
right?
a few weeks ago, when I was working for other people, had no worries about if I was getting paid, how much I would be getting paid as a salaried manager, but I didn't have that time freedom. Now I have the freedom and the opportunity to make my own schedule and build it how I would like. But the financial freedom is what we're working towards, right? So I'm really
Mhm.
excited to learn how to build the life that I'm looking for and all the different tools and the strategies that we're going to talk about with our guest today.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you want to give the definition, and then
Yes.
I can invite our guest on stage and get this conversation going because it's a good one. I can't wait.
Hello. I would love to. Okay. So, again, ladies, we're talking about financial wellness. And financial wellness is an intentional approach to your relationship with money as a tool. It includes stability with current finances, increasing positive financial behaviors like budgeting, reducing debt, saving, and investing. Financial wellness incorporates knowledge and skills that helps to change behavior, reduce financial stress, and creation of a strategic financial plan to reach desired financial goals.
Ooh, I love it. And you
Yeah.
know what I love is I love that our expert today, like, this is what she does.
Yeah.
So, do you want to add anything in before I read her bio and invite
No.
her on stage?
Nope. I
All
want to
right.
go ahead and start talking.
I know you're so excited about this episode. All right, here we go. Mikelann is an author, keynote speaker, and money coach who helps women transform their relationship with money to create a life they love. For over 20 years, she has been a thought leader in the field of financial psychology. Her strong background in emotional intelligence, paired with her practical money strategies, enables her clients to consciously design their life while escaping financial stress and anxiety. When she's not working with clients, you can find Mikelann on the dance floor, indulging her love of Argentine tango. We have another good friend and author that is a tango person. And we
Yes.
are going to give you the link to her website and all that info after we talk. But let's bring Michael Ann up to the stage.
Hi,
Welcome.
Michael Ann.
Hello, hello from Seattle.
Oh, so delightful to see you and have this conversation today. How was your new year?
I danced a lot. Speaking of dancing, because I know you're a dancer, right? I love watching you guys both dance. It's so fun. I'm like, oh, they need to add tango moves. That's
Thank
what
you.
they
Ooh,
need.
that's a good we need to put that
Okay,
on the
so
list,
right
Christine.
now, let's pause. Let's right now pause. What would be a good tango move that we could do online? Teach us one real quick, Michael Ann.
Oh
What
my
can we
gosh, I
do
have to
online?
the problem with tango is it's all about the feet. So I'm gonna have to get up on my
Right?
desk and dance for you.
Hey, if I'm
That
putting
would
my
be a
feet on
first.
camera, I need to put somebody's paying me to see the feet, okay? The
Yeah.
special
Well, listen, if you want
privileges.
us to go that way, I'll get on the table.
I love that. And I love that you include like the emotional intelligence, the
Mhm.
psychology with the finances. I think that's huge, especially as a psychology major and how we know that it affects people when they're dealing with situations.
Huge. Oh,
Yeah.
well, and money coaching, it's a newer field. It used to be no one had ever heard of money coaching. It's probably only about 25 years old, but it's because this field absolutely combines the emotional, psychological part of money with that behavioral piece. And the truth is you have to have both. Money is emotional, and there's a lot of practical stuff that we can also learn.
Absolutely. Like when I started my own journey with the financial wellness, I realized that I didn't have a plan and that I was giving my power away, right? Just
Mhm.
like sometimes I might give gifts that I was waiting for. I would also be
Mhm.
waiting for money. And then if somebody needed it, it would be gone. Or one of my, I guess you could call it a favorite story, is when I went to Target for shoes, spent $600, didn't get any shoes. And I said, Shannon, what's going on? What
Yeah,
is going on? So when you look at the
sure.
emotions,
Yeah.
and what is the question that I had written down? When you, how has your study in consciousness molded the conversations around money?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. I
Thank you.
mean, my undergrad was in economics, but my master's degree is in consciousness studies and transpersonal psychology. And I think that because of all of that study, it really opened me up to just how emotional money is and also how multidimensional money is. And so much of this is also about our consciousness, because I know that so many of my clients, they want to be more conscious about their life, which basically also means being conscious about your money. Because so many people say that they want to have a more authentic life, more aware life, more conscious life, but without looking at your relationship to money, it's hard to really create that conscious life that we all so want to have.
So I have a curiosity and a question about that. So, say our listeners are listening and they've
Hmm.
never thought about that. They've never thought about having an intentional relationship with money, or
Hmm.
it just gives them the hives to even think about it, right? When they
Right.
start thinking about money, they get anxious and shut down.
Hmm.
What's the first step? What is the very first step for somebody that's brand new on this journey?
Yeah, so this may sound odd, but this is such a good question also, is we actually want to start thinking about money as a relationship to money. So if you personified money, and I know this sounds a little weird, but like if you can imagine money walking in the door, right? So you see a dollar bill walking in the door. Some people view it as it's wearing a bowler hat and smoking a cigar. I mean, we all view money differently. But the next step is to say, I'm in a relationship with money. And so many of us have ignored money. We don't like to think of it as just this tool, but really when you look at it from the point of view of relationship, we look at it almost like an arranged marriage. Like the ball and chain, I have to deal with money, I'll deal with money. But if you flip it and go, what if I could create a relationship to money? That would mean, okay, let's start talking to money. Let's start connecting with money. Let's start honoring money just a little bit more here and a little bit more there. Then what we find is money starts smiling. Money starts getting happier with the way that you're treating it, because nobody likes to be ignored and neglected.
No.
And yet a lot of us are ignoring and neglecting our money. So I really love this notion of relationship to money.
When you were talking, the word that also comes up for me is celebrating. Like
Hmm.
we have, and I can't remember what guest was on, and we talked about one of the rituals I have, Mikelann, is when I'm paying bills, I often will light a candle and give gratitude. And because there's been times when I was an undergrad student that was a big deal, and
Right.
just so having that celebration or that gratitude or the thankfulness
Mhm.
around it, that like yeah, I can do this. And I'm really thankful I can do it online because that just whoop makes me happy.
I love what you're saying, Christine. And I would even push it further in that I was just talking to a client about that this morning. This idea of having a money date, which is, kind of where you're going. That because a lot of us are not raised with a real positive association with money for a lot of reasons. And, we can get into that, a lot of our money story and history, right? So as adults, there's this feeling of, well, we should just do it. But what if we honor the fact that, we haven't all come from a real positive place around money? Some of us have. That's lovely. But one thing that will help is to create this notion of, what if once a week you dated money? So when you think about sitting down to pay your bills, for example, light a candle, have that wonderful cup of tea, listen to your favorite music, create this ambiance, because it becomes this like luscious practice space where you are paying attention and in relationship to money, and you want it to be positive. Maybe it means you need to eat a little bit of chocolate. My colleague Barry Tesler talks a lot about, eating chocolate when she works on her money, right? So there's lots of positive body awareness techniques that we can all use when we go to working on our money.
I love that. And then just recreating that feeling of joy and abundance and happiness instead of fear and lack. I love that a
Yes.
lot.
Yes. So I have a question about did you say transpersonal psychology? Is that from the way that you think and how it affects other people, or is it I operate this way and when Michael Land and I are in a situation, we operate this way together?
So, transpersonal psychology really gets into like Carl Jung and gets into looking at the shadow aspects of life in general and our personality in general. And one of the reasons why I love transpersonal psychology as it relates to money is a lot of our stuff around money really goes into our shadow, right? Goes into shadow. And so when we are, usually our shadows around money come up when we're stressed. Sometimes the stress is we just don't have enough money, or we've just been hit by maybe a big bill or something like that. So we all have our shadow activated in different ways, and we all have individual money shadows, but sometimes our shadow comes up and we put our head in the sand and ignore it, or when we're in shadow, we lash out and fight with our beloved around money when really it's this other thing that's stressing us, you know. So it just brings up this notion of the unseen. And a lot of the, no one ever talks about shadow work with money, and yet there it is, right? I mean, if it was all, I mean, Christine, I know both of you are so well versed in psychology, so I know you know
Thank
how important the shadow is. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I also wanted to touch on the different personality types, right? We talked about it a little bit before we got on, but when
Mhm.
you talk about dating money, I think about how beautiful different women are, right? But if I'm going to come to a relationship, I'll come to it one way. My best friend might come to it a different way. So, how do our personalities affect the way that we deal with our money?
Yeah, so I would say that the two biggest personalities around money are what I call the liberty personality and the safe harbor personality. And so the liberty personality type is the type that's really oriented around freedom. And one way to think about it is, what's the point of money? To do what I want, when I want, how I want, right? And so liberty personality types tend to be a little bit more drawn to being self-employed, and they tend to not want to punch the time clock, right? But they're very like, oh, it's all about freedom and adventure. Versus the safe harbor personality, the whole point of money is safety and security, right? And what makes me happy is knowing that I've got a roof over my head and that I have a safe harbor. You know, so it goes to different motivations around money. And the truth is, we all have both. Of course, we all want a safe harbor, and we all want a lot of liberty. But everyone is a little bit more drawn to one or the other. And so both in friendships and also in romantic relationships, oftentimes opposites come together, right? Because it's a wonderful pattern, right? When you've got a safe harbor personality, they tend to love that liberty person because it gets them out and doing fun things, and it's like, and vice versa. You know, it's like, oh, we love the safe harbor because I feel safe, I feel protected with this person,
That
right?
makes perfect
So,
sense.
a lot of it isn't necessarily about money, but when money comes in, it is where we go, whether we go under stress or what makes us happy and feel good around money.
I would love to hear your expertise because, here we are, the first week of January. We're coming
Mhm.
off the holidays.
Mm.
We are coming off a season where a lot of people
Yep.
may overspend or may have a lot of stress around finances. And I know that you talk on your website and you talk with your clients about financial forgiveness, and we were talking before the show about, you said it was holiday hangover.
Yeah, the holiday spending hangover.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, this is exactly the time of year where we're all dealing with this. In fact, I've been talking to clients about it all week because we're all coming off of the holidays, right? So the holiday spending hangover is pretty much exactly the way it sounds, that the majority of people spend more on the holidays than they initially intended. There's a lot of reasons for that. But part of what makes it feel like, ugh, is for many people, a lot of that holiday spending hangover was put on credit cards. And so it can feel like not only did we overspend on the holidays, now we get to drag the proof of that around for a while. And the average American pays off Christmas in July, right? So it's a pain point, right? It is a pain point. So part of it goes to how do we do the holidays differently, and like we were talking earlier, Shannon was very much like, let's talk now about how we do it differently, because there's a lot that we can do to make it better. And we need to forgive ourselves. We need to forgive ourselves because, there's this sense around money of just do it. It's kind of this masculine, money's just a tool, just buckle down and do it. And yet we are all human. And because money touches almost every area of our life, there's only one other substance on the planet that touches as many areas as money, and that would be food. So we play out a lot of issues in money and food because they just touch so many areas of our life. So it's just a way of saying that we play out a lot of stuff in money, and so of course it's emotional. So when we look at it and say, yes, it's emotional, that's normal, and we want to forgive ourselves for the stuff that we don't feel great about so that we can chart a new path. Because we get to chart a new path. It's a new year. January is the perfect time. And we all have a lot of, new year, new you, new financial goals. But if we don't let go of the stuff that we're kind of beating ourselves up about, it's hard to get that fresh start because, and women more so than men really beat themselves up. Men overspend just as much as women, by the way. That part has nothing to do with gender. But women beat themselves up more than men do. And so that's why I really want to look at how do we forgive ourselves.
Yeah, that
I
makes
think
sense.
that's huge. And I also think the two things you just said, Mikelann, about food and finances. And when we look at inflation and we look at where we are ending 2022, like those two intersecting is huge right now.
Yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought about exactly the way you just put it, but that's brilliant. Yeah, what we were talking about before we got on is one of the big news stories for the year, as if all your listeners know, is inflation, right? And everybody is impacted by inflation. I mean, it's not your imagination. Oh my goodness, everything costs more. It's one of the biggest inflationary periods in the last 20 25 years in the United States. And for some of your listeners, the younger ones, they've never really thought about inflation until this past year, right? So it is interesting. And one of the biggest impacts is food, because that's where we see it. That's where we see, I mean, oh my gosh, it's like, I can't believe how much milk costs. That's where we notice it, at the gas pump and at the grocery store. And it is interesting because food and money really are some of the biggest topics that all of us play out our issues on, because they touch so many areas of our life. They're very convenient, if you will, to play out personal issues in terms of food and money, because there really isn't anything else that touches our personal and our romantic life and our family life.
I love that. And when I think about money and women connected in wisdom and the resources I want to share, I think about how it affects situations that you might not think of, right? I think about when my mom was sick and how I wanted to spend more time with her. And then when she passed away, I had to go right back to work. So, one of my things for my
Mm.
life with financial freedom is if somebody passes away, I want to be able to take the time that I feel like I need. I don't want to have to go back 48 hours later, you know? And I think about stress at work and management or just teams in general, and how situations like that are actually the reason that your manager is upset and then it passes on to you, or somebody's tight or doesn't know how to deal
Mhm.
with situations. Like you said, it touches everything. And I'm glad that as in the last 20, 25 years, we've given more focus on the mental and emotional parts of ourselves. We're able to pair those together because they definitely go hand in hand.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal. And it's interesting because one of the things that is commonly recommended is, as you both know, is this notion of having a safety net, of having 3 to 6 months of expenses saved up so that if something happens, you have the money to not need to work. But what's interesting, Shannon, is I actually have a lot of clients rename that account their freedom fund as opposed to safety net. Because they're, and you can say, well, yeah, tomato, tomato, but words are powerful. Words are powerful. And this notion of a freedom fund is exactly what you were saying. I want to feel, no matter what, that I'm free. And I am working at this job as long as it works for me. And when it no longer works for me, I want to feel free to leave it. And I have enough money so that I've got time to job hunt. Or I'm free to take maternity leave. Or I am free to be with my mom when she's sick, or whatever it is. Right? It's like it goes to autonomy. We want to
Yes.
feel like we have the freedom to do what we need to do. You don't want money to be what holds you back from what is most important in life.
Shannon, you're on mute. I can tell you're
Thank
saying
you so
something
much.
brilliant.
I think
A
you gave us
question.
the key to life. What was it?
Yes, right? But that is what I was talking about. When you help people build their life, what are the challenges that you see a lot of people are dealing with when they first come to you?
I would say the biggest thing that I hear is just the stress and anxiety around money, right? Because a lot of my clients are women in midlife that are just really rocking it. They are doing so well in so many areas of their life. Money is a stressor. Money is where they're stressed and where they're anxious. And then when you say, well, what is that about? The very next thing that they say is, because I don't feel in control of my finances. And so those are very kind of interconnected concepts, and it goes to, how do we feel in control? Why don't we feel in control? All of that. But the more that we feel in control of our money, the less stress and anxiety that we have. So you can see how synergistic and connected those ideas are.
Absolutely. And when you were talking about different ways that people react to money, that was me, right? I was reading this audiobook about financial literacy, and he was
Mhm.
saying that sometimes people treat it like their grades. If you have bad grades, you don't want to go look at what's going on. And I never
Right.
felt that way as an honor student. I knew my grades were fine, right? But the
Mhm.
money, after I spent that $600 at Target, I was like, I don't know what this account looks like. I'm just going to go to work and go get gas and not worry about it. So really, for me, knowing the numbers, even if I know, let's say I haven't
Mhm.
reached my revenue goal yet, or I haven't reached my
Right.
sales goal yet for my company, at least I know that, and even if it doesn't happen that month, we can do it the next month, or we can pivot and
Right.
see how
Right.
we can be more effective.
Well, and I think it's partly why, financial coaching is so effective for people, because that's very normal. People are afraid to look, and that's human, right? I'm afraid to look. I'm afraid of what I'm going to see. I'm afraid of what it means. And then the boogeyman under the bed grows, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what it means is, I'm going to be in the poorhouse, and we kind of spin, right? And there's a lot of fear, and part of it is we just don't have people to talk to about money, to know, kind of what's normal, what's the path out. And then we start beating ourselves up, right? So I mean, there's a lot of reasons why people don't want to look, but bottom line is, we're so afraid of what we're going to see, therefore don't look, right? And then of course, oftentimes when you're in a money fog, that's a version of what I call money fog, um, then things get more stressful.
Right? Because you get into the survival mechanism, and
Right.
it's a different scenario. Michaelann, when I think about you and a money coach, like, if
Mm-hmm.
somebody has never heard that term, or if somebody
Mm-hmm.
is like, what does a money coach do? Like,
Here's the
I
money coach.
heard you say, you help discover where the shadow is, you help discover where you're not in control of.
Mhm.
And I'm guessing this part, but I want our listeners to know it. Because you and I've had several conversations, but I feel like you're a non-judgmental
Mhm.
partner in figuring it out.
Amen. Yeah, absolutely. That's super important. Nobody's going to figure out money with someone who they feel judged by. That's a very short conversation. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, money coaching. The short history is, it used to be that people could see a credit counselor if they had debt, or they could see a financial advisor if they had investments. The reality is, many people have both. We may have investments, we may have debt, but neither of those fields is particularly equipped to deal with the emotional side of money. So in money coaching, we actually look at both. And on a practical level, I use the term money fog. A lot of people, Christine, that call me up are in a money fog. And it simply means they're foggy. They don't know exactly where their money is going or how much they need to make or what the debt or, whatever the numbers are. And so when you're working with a money coach, one of our very first priorities is working through how do you get clear in a way that works for you, because everyone's different. And if it doesn't work for you, then it doesn't work. Right. So we have to look at how do you get out of the money fog? But then one of the centerpieces of working with a money coach is developing this nourishing spending plan process so that you can create the life that you love. And I think you and I talked about this on one of our calls, Christine. I hate the word budget. That is not a bad word for everyone. Not everybody dislikes that word, but but many people feel like it's sounds like a diet to many people, right? It's like, oh, who do I owe? What's left over for me? I'm going to live life on leftovers, blah. So having a nourishing spending plan is a very, very different feeling. And it's a way of saying, okay, it's my money. Where do I want it to go? And yes, I want to honor debt. And yes, I want to honor retirement. But the truth is, I live in the present. I want to have what I need and want now. And so many of us are afraid that we're going to have to spend all our time dealing with the past, debt, or the future, retirement. Not that we don't want to do these things, but we live here, right? So we have to have a plan that allows us to live and enjoy our life in the present. And so money coaching kind of looks at all of that and then all of the connected emotions.
I really like that. And something I do for that is, one, I do separate money for myself, right? But also, and if you ladies have heard the podcast, you know that I have Profit First Days. So, Mikelann, on the 10th and the 25th of every month, I transfer certain allocations to certain accounts depending on which business I'm in or in my personal one. And so when I do that transfer, I send the money to myself first, right? Excuse me,
Mhm.
guys. Whether it's the profit for the business and then the owner's compensation, I like to put that money in that account before I put it in the taxes, just because it helps me feel better, you know.
Yeah,
And
oh, put yourself first.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
I mean,
exactly. Pay yourself first.
you are more important than all of your bills. You are more important than your taxes. It's not that you're not honoring all of this stuff, but you are the most important.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you as well, because I know while I'm setting up standard operating procedures for the business, right? I'll do something for a month, and at the end of the month, it's like, okay, I need to tweak this a little bit. So we know you help everybody else. For your financial systems, what are things that you had to tweak that has helped you be more effective each year?
Well, I mean, neither of you will be surprised to know that I work with a business annual income and spending plan,
Mhm.
and it just rocks my world. It is so helpful. So, what I personally do is I do my personal spending plan first. That nourishing plan that gives me all the tango that my heart desires. All the shoes and all that good yummy stuff. But the reason that I do my personal plan first is I need to see how much money I need to make. I need to
Mhm.
see what draw do I want, right? And if your listeners are salaried, this is still really important, because if you see, hey, listen, I need to make this much and I'm only making this much, sometimes that's the fuel in our belly to ask for the raise or look at job shifts or things like that. It's not that we don't look at changing and dealing with, do we need to spend less, but it just allows us to see the whole picture, right? Then I take that into my business plan. And I go, okay, so the most, it's like Shannon, paying herself first. The most important centerpiece of my business spending plan is Mikelann paying herself first, right? And then building it out. And, from there, what I do every year in my business and my personal is I make a list of needs, wants, and desires, right?
Mhm.
And it's a
Mhm.
way of prioritizing. And I advocate this for everyone. What do I need and what do I want?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and it's different every year, but until I really have that soul search thing of what would be nourishing to me both in my business and in my personal life, um, my plan's not done because we don't want a bare bones plan. We don't want a bare bones plan. We may need a bare bones plan to say worst case scenario, what if? There
Right.
is a time and a place for that, right? But that's not very fun when we think about having this up leveled relationship to money. We really do want to be thinking about our most lovely and luscious life and not afraid to look at what does that cost.
I love those words, lovely and luscious. And also what brings us joy, right?
Mhm.
Like
Oh yeah.
what brings us joy? And oftentimes that can be things that are free, but oftentimes that's some things that come with a price tag. And so being realistic about that and being able to build it in, I think is really important and a
Yeah.
form of self-care.
100%. And the way I sometimes say it is, what do you want to protect? Because when you're looking at, let's say, a personal plan, and this would also be true of your business plan, we want to say, because if there's not enough money for everything, in my ideal world, we're all living in Hawaii 12 months out of the year and, got a private pool, right? But what do you want to protect? And so for me, and you're not going to be surprised I say this, I want to protect Tango. That's my happy place. And so, I build that into my plan first and foremost so that if anything doesn't fit and anything has to go, I'm looking at other categories. Right.
I love that. And especially because we met with the Spark group. So I've been telling you guys about the retail space, and we did a vision board party too, right? We had the Women Connected one tonight, the virtual one. I'm super excited about it. And we said that we were going to keep our appointments with ourselves, right? So the other day I had facial on my list. I almost didn't do it. I said, no, Shannon, you wrote it down. It's 2023. So I was tired, but I did my facial, right? Um, so I really like the fact that you protect that for yourself. My question, Mikelann, is what is the difference when you're making your list between the wants and the desires?
Shannon, I'm thinking she may be having a little tech issue because she froze on my end. Yep, I
Got
think
you.
we lost
Yeah.
her.
Yeah, she'll probably come
So,
right back.
absolutely, she'll probably come right back and we can chat about this. I had a curiosity for
Okay.
you, my friend.
Yes.
What is a category you protect?
Ooh, a category. I think that I need to look at it and pick one. One that I would protect. Okay, so let's say right now, as I move into the businesses, it's the living expenses. I want to make sure that everything is taken care of so that I can continue to stay in the businesses and my time is
Hmm.
not pulled to somebody else's dream. I don't know if that's the category that I would, it doesn't make me
Right?
feel all nourished and mushy, but I would like to add something for myself. I'm thinking about massages or chiropractic visits. I haven't figured it out. What
Hmm.
about you?
Well, I was thinking the same thing, like when she said tango. I
Yeah.
mean, it's very interesting because so much of my work is part of my play with
Mhm,
interplay, like my
mhm.
interplay retreats, or um, actually, you know what I would say is probably artist festivals with Joe. Like that is a protected category because it is a time for ourselves. It's a time for creativity. It's a time for camping and art and festivals. So I think that one would be a protected category.
I think, and I love that, especially for you guys together. I think about him throwing those flames at Tracy's graduation party in your yard, but maybe trips. I feel like bare minimum, I need at least one vacation a year. Ideally it
Right.
might be one every quarter. I need to figure out what my abundance budget looks like, but definitely taking a break is
Right.
necessary for me to show up as my best. I think that's a
Right.
protected category. Yeah,
I love that. I love
yeah,
that a lot. Yeah. I am this conversation about financial wellness, right? The thinking about it for the year long, the thinking
yeah.
about it for how did Michael Ann say it? Nourishing
Mm-hmm.
and nourishing ourselves. Like I think I have some more
Instead of
work to do in that area. It's very
yeah,
interesting to bring all that up.
yeah,
I know that we're having a storm across the nation today, so I'm not
yeah, we are.
sure if we will get our guests back today. One of the things I want to say before we forget is Michael Ann was really clear about giving our listeners two things. That if you go to her website at seattlemoneycoach.com, you can book a free 15-minute consultation with her and ask her any questions you may have to determine the best way to get exactly what you need. And the other thing you can do, and we're going to put this in our show notes, but she is also giving our listeners a free ebook, 7 Surefire Steps to Relieve Your Financial Anxiety and Take Control of Your Money Now. So you want to be sure and head over to her website and check that out. And here she comes. She's back. Welcome.
This is live, right? There was a
Yeah.
massive windstorm and a tree just went down behind me and I suddenly
Oh,
saw the lights flickering and then you just,
oof.
so,
Oh,
and I can hear the wind, but hopefully it won't. I'm looking at the tree
absolutely.
now.
Well, that's what we
Glad that
said.
you're
We know
okay.
we're glad you're okay, and we know there's a massive storm across the United States
I
today. And
heard it coming, but we've never lost power here, so that's a big storm. I'm so
right?
sorry. So,
No
anyways,
worries. We took that opportunity. We were talking about things are protected categories and
Yeah,
realizing we had a little work to do in that area.
definitely need to work on
And
it.
also, we were talking about the free giveaways that you had for our listeners. And do you want to say a little more about the electronic download and
yeah. Oh my gosh. Now I'm like looking at the trees blowing up there. But so where were we? Where you're going to protect? One thing you want to protect is your internet at all costs. So the for your listeners, so there's two things. I can hear lightning and things hitting me outside. So sorry. Yeah. I do a free discovery call. So go to seattlemoneycoach.com. And I love to talk to women who basically want to figure out what is the one thing that's stopping you from taking control of your money. So that's a free discovery call. To go ahead and grab it on my website at seattlemoneycoach.com. If you don't want to talk with me for those 20 minutes and you just want to get a free ebook, Seattle Money Coach, it's the 7 steps to stop stressing about money, and download it. It's free. And I mean, obviously I think it's fabulous because I wrote it, right? But it but it really is about how do you stop stressing about money? I mean, we want to spend more time enjoying life and not stressing about money.
we love that. We love resources and tools, Mikelann, for our listeners. We also love good book recommendations. So, are you reading any good books nowadays, whether it's about money or without? Like, what's a good book recommendation for our folks?
There are so many, but here's my current favorite. So this is not a money book. This is called The Upgrade: How the Female Brain Gets Stronger and Better in Midlife and Beyond. Yeah, she is the medical doctor that wrote the book called The Female Brain a few years ago. And I think part of why I love it is, you know, the vast majority of my clients are amazing women in midlife. I'm an amazing woman in midlife, and apparently menopause is like the old-fashioned word nowadays. So menopause, that's out. She's renamed menopause to the upgrade. I
Ooh.
am fully upgraded. So that's probably my current favorite book that I've had a lot of clients really. And the thing about working with a money coach, we are so I read this quote somewhere years ago. We are the priests of the new millennium, meaning money coaches pretty much get very deep in with their clients. We have very deep and very, very, very personal conversations, and we just kind of get into all these nooks and crannies of our lives. And so, we often know where the pain points are and what's working and not working. And sometimes it's about health stuff, right? I mean, everything comes up. Money touches everything, including our health.
Yeah, and I think about Christine when you say that, because in her days of social work, she always says that people were more comfortable talking about their sex lives than they were about their money. So
Yes, so
getting in
true.
the nitty-gritty, making sure that we're nourishing ourselves and keeping things
Mhm.
protected and setting the plan before we do our actions, I
Right.
think that's really important. So, talking about actions, we just had it up. Every week, we do a wisdom in action around the dimension that we're talking about. So, this week, for your financial wellness, what are you doing for your wisdom in action?
Is it to me? Mine is, I'll even do a little show and tell. This is my spending plan for the year. I'm recently engaged, and so my word for the year is togetherness. So my love and I have been working on a joint spending plan, and it's an interesting adventure for someone to marry a money coach. So we're having a lot of fun, believe it or not, talking about money and putting our plan together.
Okay, wait. Before we go on, I need a follow-up question there. So, how often do you and your honey talk about
Yeah,
money? Like, is it a weekly date? What is your give us the inside scoop there?
the inside scoop. So we do a money date once a week. So we put together a spending plan at the beginning of the month, and then once a week we check in on it. And do we miss sometimes that weekly one? We do, and so minimum is we check in mid month and adjust our monthly spending plan. Partly because we've got a lot of interesting, fun things that we want to look at, right? And the thing with the spending plan is, like I said, are powerful. And so sometimes looking at a spending plan is about reminding you what it is you said that you wanted to do. Like when I look at Roberts, and he had a plan for, massage or seeing the chiropractor, and he hasn't done it yet. It's a great reminder of helping him with his self-care as well. So it's not all about the money. It's also about your time and your energy also.
Oh, I love that so much. All right, I am totally riffing off that. So my wisdom in action this week is going to be create a spending plan with my sweetheart when I get home.
Mhm.
I think that's a we have different things we call it, but I like that. And I like the tying it to our self-care too. What you got, Shannon?
Let me see. What do I want to do? I thought I wrote it down. Let's see. We talked about how to set body positive techniques. There's so much I want to do. If I had to do a hashtag, this is what I'll say. And this is the hashtag that I have written down. Hashtag food and finances. Because that's what I want to look at, right? I like the moving from budget to the nourishing spending plan. And
Mhm.
as I continue to be intentional about what I eat and my physical wellness and maintaining my wellness, being preventative, I want to do the same thing financially. Maintain the wellness, continue to increase it, and be consistent. So, hashtag food and finances.
I'm going to revise mine and say hashtag nourishing spending plan because that is such a key word of yours as a money coach.
Yeah,
And I want to adopt that. I love that. That's beautiful.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's wonderful. We want to enjoy our lives.
right.
Absolutely. Mikelann, thank you so much for your time in the midst of a great storm, being present
Yes.
with us,
It added
and
an exciting flair. Like, where'd she go?
where'd you go? That happens when we do live podcast, and we're
Yeah,
glad you
Right.
came back, and
yeah.
Yes.
we're grateful to be connected. Thank you. We will put all your website information on our show notes so our listeners can find
Mhm.
you. And y'all, when you reach out to Michael Ann, let her know that you heard about her through Women Connected in Wisdom,
Yeah.
and we are grateful to be connected with you.
I
Absolutely.
am so happy to be here. Yeah, I look forward to your listeners grabbing a discovery call. I know your listeners are just a cut above. They are. You have to have an amazing listenership because I love your show so much. So thank you for
Thank you
Thank
having
so
me.
much.
you. Thank you, and
Absolutely.
Happy New Year. And
Yes.
have
Happy New
fun
Year.
with that togetherness word. That's awesome.
Togetherness and tango. There we go.
I love it. See you soon. Oh my goodness, how much fun was that?
So much fun. So much fun. And I'm looking forward to it. I definitely still need to set my budget for the month. The goal is to
Mhm.
have that done before the month. And instead of the month, we know we need to do the year. So do
A
mine first. And
nourishing,
yeah.
a nourishing spending plan. You know
Yeah.
what else I really like about that
What?
versus the word budget is that it gives you permission to spend money. Like I grew up in a house where you really didn't have permission to spend money. And
Yeah.
it's a big deal. Like, even when I have money, I'm like, "Oh, do I get the massage? Do I not get the," and I
Yeah.
just had that realization, like,
Mhm.
literally just in this moment, or I would have talked about it with Mikelann when she was on here. But I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, even the word of that allows
Mhm.
you to nourish yourself and allows you to spend money.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty
And e
cool.
and even like she said, it's a freedom fund um instead of the safety net. You know, the safety
Right?
net makes me feel like I'm gonna fall, something's gonna happen. And excuse me, guys, if you hear this sound, we were one of the homes pipes burst when this cold flash happened, so they're working on it. But it was really good to talk about how we can build ourselves. And the thing is that we spend money anyways, right? Bill is
Right.
consistent. He wants his money every month, whether it's the 15th, the 1st, the 22nd, whenever your bill is due, you know that you're going to have to pay that. So if I know I have to give it to somebody else, I definitely want to be on that list and at the top of it.
I love it. I love it. Well, my friend, it's hard to believe we are at the end
Episode.
of episode 97.
Whoop, whoop.
And whoop,
I just
whoop.
turned 90 like a few weeks ago, and we're about to turn 100. Super excited. And again, we have some things coming up for you, right? Tonight, if you have time at 6:30, from 6:30 to 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be putting our vision boards together. And last year I had retail on there, and I thought it was a stretch. And we got into a retail space. So if you want to see some things come to fruition, to remind yourself as you work on everything, come join us. We still have some spots left for you. And if you want to join the community, we're about to open that up. So stay tuned to all of our pages, and we'll be back next week for episode 98. In the meantime, be well, be wise, be whole. We'll see you soon.
See you
Peace.
soon.